All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Puff and Prosper podcast. I'm actually in Denver, Colorado. I've been road tripping this week. Just got down from the mountains, and I am graciously hosted by one of the coolest people because he's such this, big athlete personality. But I got Jake Pate sitting with me here. Yep.
Yeah.
And Jake and I have connected over the years on various different projects, kind of keep in touch based on, the things that we do are very synonymous. And, we've just basically been able to connect via Instagram and the internet, which is super cool, which I think landed us just here at this table to knock out this episode. So Jake has a lot of stuff going on. We're going to dive into that. But you may recognize him from, small competitions like the Olympics or Do Tour or X Games, the smaller stuff, stuff like that. But he's, kind of came out of that a little bit post career and has some interesting projects that I'm super interested to dive into, bro. So thank you for joining me.
Dude, thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, dude. So. I like to start with gratitude because when you start something like this, I didn't have a ton of accolades. I didn't have a ton of notoriety or anything. So when you start something like this, people are sometimes slow to open their door or take you on. So I super appreciate that. A lot of the people before you and after you are graciously hosting me either at their apartment or at their retail or their grow facility. And it's added a really good edge to the show to start off on the right foot. So,
dude, yeah,
thank you.
Of course. No, of course. I appreciate you having me on too, man. I think it's like, it's a village, we're all kind of in this together, especially us younger, like-minded individuals that are trying to start something. Entrepreneurship is not easy by any means. So we got to we got to have each other's backs, and it's it's a process. So I'm stoked to be on. Sure.
Dude. So fill everybody in on like who you are. Cause I probably don't even know all of it.
Yeah.
But for everybody that's going to see this episode and listen to us, like just fill them in on a brief background of who you are.
Yeah, man, for sure. I guess long story short, Colorado boy, grew up in the mountains. Just, I guess, got into snowboarding and skateboarding at a young age. Had the most amazing facilitation of my passions just by my family.
Yep.
My parents are amazing. They've done everything for me. So I was just super lucky to grow up in the mountains itself, and then basically had the opportunity to snowboard and do competitions, and kind of came up through that. Ended up being able to make it a career, doing some professional events, getting some sponsors. And yeah, man, it's been a wild ride so far, but had a bunch of head injuries through the process. Kind of towards the end of my career, I guess, like really leading up to COVID is when I decided I wanted to transition out of that. And most of that was due to just basically like post-concussion syndrome that I developed, just smacking my head over and over and over again, never recovering, going back, partying after. And that's kind of just like from the culture, I think, is
that the lifestyle that
for sure
is kind of associated with that?
Yeah, it's a huge lifestyle. I think of snowboarding is just like being hard, being grungy, and like the party mentality is super, super ingrained in the culture, which is super fun, man. Like I can't lie at all. Great individuals. Everyone likes to have a blast for sure. But yeah, when you mix in like super high risk sport and head injuries and stuff, things get dicey for sure. Lack of knowledge on concussion front. But yeah, I mean, long story short, just basically snowboarder, and kind of transitioned out, and through my experience of transitioning because of the head injuries and a lot of what my friends were dealing at the same time, which is super similar, wanted to kind of break into the brain space a little bit. Had my own experience with some what really is like concussion diagnoses and or concussion diagnosis. So I wanted to help bring that, which I was super lucky to have, essentially, that no one else has, into the sport. Objective data is not something that's really even being used now. So I kind of saw this opportunity to help, and also kind of a way that I could transition out in something that's affected me that I have passion for. So
from one passion to the next, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that. I live that as well. What I think that's crazy that you commented about the concussion and the lifestyle. That's been a common theme for a lot of these episodes. Like people who I knew were athletes or something to that matter or to that degree um, would come on the show and then talk about what they did in cannabis or what they've done with their life after playing sports or being an athlete or any of that stuff. Surprisingly, a lot of them got into this because of the concussion thing or just like a mental health thing.
Yeah.
And then a passion project followed because you get to help yourself, you get to help other people. But that's cool. I mean, I think that's funny because I was curious about what the lifestyle was like with stuff I have experience with was the same thing. I mean, first maybe not the partying. We were all like a lot younger doing this stuff, but like it was the whole like I'm not going to say anything about what's going on. I'm just going to keep smiling and waving and going through the motions, and then maybe I'll get to play or get to do another run one day, you know. So that's super cool that you brought that up, that the lifestyle kind of had that a little bit of a grip on you.
Yeah, dude, it did for sure. It was wild because there's a group of us that had kind of come up even just since we were like really young, like probably like from like 10 to like 14.
Yeah, right on.
And then for like, cause it's a big community. I think everybody kind of starts small. There's like these camps that everyone goes to and stuff.
For sure.
But then there was a group of us that kind of started taking it to the next level, the professional level. And we were super young and just kind of thrown into it. And the circuit that we were kind of breaking into was a bunch of guys essentially like in their 20s that, you know, were veterans in the party scene, bro. And we were just like introduced to it. So yeah, it was hard to not lose yourself in all that, which I think we all had a little experience with, but it's funny, dude.
Because you don't get to like really see that even like on social media or whatever, you know. That's one of those things that's behind the curtain, you know. But that's cool that you brought that up because I think sometimes people think it's a joyride, even though like you said, like I got to grow up in the mountains, my parents helped me. People think it's a joyride, but there's a lot of sacrifices and learning experiences along the way, so it's definitely like not for nothing, which I think is in turn kind of what has gotten you out into this new stuff that you got going on.
Yeah, no, 100%. So many learning experiences through the process. Yeah, it was a really, really cool thing to be involved in for sure. And that, you know, I'll always cherish that kind of like chapter of my life for sure.
Yeah.
But it's funny being outside, kind of looking in. I was talking to a buddy about this yesterday. Like, dude, it's such a kind of a small little world, small little bubble that when you're on the outside looking in, you're just like, whoa, dude, I didn't even realize like no one gives a fuck about these things. Are we cussing on?
Yeah, dude, 100%.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It was cool for sure. But it's funny looking back. You're like, damn, dude, there's so much more.
Much more.
But yeah, man.
So much more than rockstar energy and shit.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Super cool. Yeah, because I mean, when I was growing up, you know, I always watched the X Games and all the extreme stuff. I like to do board sports and stuff, but like hockey and stuff kind of dominated my focus.
Yeah.
But you know, it's also cool to make comparisons because sometimes people think, you know, guys like you or celebrities or anybody that they can see on social media from a distance kind of is like you know, it's a fairy tale land, like everything's always great. But I like the fact that, you know, you're pretty active on the social and you're moving your new projects into like that audience that was following you probably from snowboarding and stuff that you did over the years, and introducing them into the new things, which I think is great because it's the same audience.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's super easy to try to like get people into something new.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
How has that been going? Like with the music and stuff? You got anything new dropped yet? Or
dude, not yet. I kind of have like been trying to formulate a little bit of a strategy on the music front.
It's hard.
I've been lucky though. I've been like really lucky, I think, because of the platform that I kind of grew in through snowboarding. I was able to connect with some like really, really cool people in the industry. And so a lot of that is like trying to learn what the space is like, trying to like gauge how they're doing everything and how to be successful at this. And obviously like there's just so many little things that are really, really important in the process. And like that the music industry is crazy, bro. I think I got a little taste of like,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I was able to go kind of out to LA where I feel like a lot of that is based and meet with a bunch of people friends and just kind of like get a grip for the scene. But it's a crazy industry, dude. And I think LA is just kind of a crazy place too.
For
But
sure. I feel like it's like, you know, maybe 25% talent and
yeah,
the rest is all politics or
for sure.
or PR.
Dude, it's super bureaucratic. It's super political. The business side of things too is a huge part of it. I think if you like, you could be the most talented artist in the world, but if you don't have any like networking or business skills, you're not going to get anywhere. So yeah, it's a huge part of that. It was kind of like a wake up call for me, for sure. But yeah, man, just trying to formulate a little strategy. Been working on a lot of music, so trying to come up with essentially some favorites and then start kind of releasing some stuff. So hopefully soon.
Yeah, and these day and age, you gotta have the media.
Yeah,
which is fine. Your brother makes shit. That's sick.
Yeah.
Your brother's got some cool media. Shout out.
Yeah, shout out Cole Pace, bro.
Dude, yeah, that was one of the coolest things coming to your profile too, was like I didn't really care about you guys. I just wanted to see what you were filming. Like how because not only is it hard to snowboard, but then to snowboard and film with a camera and get like great angles and great shots. It's like,
dude, yeah, he doesn't get the respect he deserves. It's crazy.
For sure.
Like, yeah, I remember because when we were younger too, like we would kind of trade off. Like I film him, he films me and stuff, but he was obviously way more just versed in, putting clips together, editing, filming angles and stuff. I had like no photographic artistic ability at all. So, but it's cool, man. He's very, very talented. Yeah, if you guys don't know who Cole Pates is, go check out his Instagram. He is doing a lot of big stuff right now in the action sports industry. But yeah,
another guy making his passion his paycheck over there.
Yeah, bro. I owe so much to him, bro. Like we were, I mean, he's helped me just basically like collect and create content.
It's
and
hard,
and that's like a huge piece of the puzzle.
So, well, here's a big shout out. So take that off the tab.
Yeah, facts.
We'll get you this shout out. Yeah, no, that's super cool. The music play, and I guess if you're already used to being, kind of putting yourself out there and stuff. Music's a great industry. I have a buddy, shout out to Oliver Penn. He took me on tour all the way up to like New York and New England and stuff to do media and all that. I mean, it's no joke, it's no joke. Whether you're touring, whether you're just trying to make songs and put out and do the PR for all that and get the traction and everything. It's not easy.
Dude, there's so much to it. So much behind the scenes. Yeah. All those
like even with my stuff, it's like people think I'm on my computer all day. It's like chilling, but dude, it's actually stressful phone calls. People sharking you left and right. Yeah, for sure. Part of it, but
it's a cutthroat industry. It's a cutthroat world.
I'm looking forward to see what you do. I remember sampling, a little of your sneak peeks, which were like amazing. I mean,
I appreciate
especially whenever, you throw a curveball of like, I'm Jake Pates, I'm a snowboarder. Oh no, I'm not. I'm gonna get in the studio,
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
It was cool. Cause like everybody also, it's with music. I do music now. It's like,
yeah.
All right, dude.
Yeah, no,
like,
for sure.
Like me too.
Yeah.
At midnight for 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
that's it. There's a stigma, dude. I think for sure. It's like weird and a lot of people will do that. And nowadays you see like influencers becoming DJs and all this stuff, which is sick. Like if you've got a passion for it and that's what you want to do, awesome. But yeah, the music stuff, dude, I've really had a passion for since I was super young. Like ever since I was super young and heard hip hop in like second grade, dude, I was like, yo, what the fuck? And listen to that forever, bro. And finally got to the point where I was like, all right, I want to see if I can do this on my own. So I got like a little USB mic and GarageBand. And then from there, it's just like
GarageBand.
Learned more, but yeah, bro.
Dang. What is your like end goal with music? Is it just going to be like passionately put out there, or do you want to like really make it your full-time thing? Or
yeah, well, it's interesting, bro, because it really is like number one passion, and music's a huge part of my life. I think music is like such a massive therapeutic activity for me. So, and I think it can be that for a lot of people. I mean, ideally, I'm able to make and create art that other people can hear and it brings them comfort, like I've been able to enjoy from my favorite artists, so like that for me, it would be huge. And then it's just fun, dude. It's just fun to like get together with homies that are like-minded and like making it, bro, and just vibe and like create something cool.
Yeah, this is my music right here. Like, I mean, I like to get, I don't really like the editing parts and all
Yeah.
that. I mean, even my whole entire setup, as you can see, fits in a backpack. It goes
Yeah, yeah.
anywhere with me. I mean, I'm filming on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And I'm not shy about that by any means. I probably won't ever graduate unless it's like paid for and like a no brainer. Then yeah,
Yeah.
like let's bring out camera angles for everybody and all that. But
You don't need much, dude.
you don't need much.
That's
That's the craziest thing is I had all this gear too, and I had just wasted it. You know, let it sit and let it sit, and I was like, just got to start. Like,
100%.
and that's what I've realized. And thanks to everyone, obviously with the support. But that's what I realized was like once I just started doing it and putting out, I didn't care about these nitty gritty details once I saw like it was going to be received. So then it was just like foot on the gas, you know, and then it helps that it's mobile so that I can do things like this and make the most out of trips. But also because people, I think they want this type of content. They just want the raw stuff. We can cut this up and share to both of our audiences. We're not going to have some 2 hour long Joe Rogan session,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and it keeps, I think we get the most important information shoved into these episodes rather than having people just listen to us talk.
Yeah.
You know, we're pretty cool,
Yeah.
but you know, I'm sure people want like higher value information,
Oh, for sure.
which really leads me to like honestly the whole reason I'm here. I wanted to talk about everything from the brain stuff and Wavi and all that other stuff to get into, you know, your other projects that you got going on.
Sure.
So I mean, you can take over from there because I don't know anything about it. So
yeah, and thank you for giving me a platform to do this too.
sure.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of touched on the concussion thing a little bit. I got to a point where it was like I was so done with everything. I wasn't functional. I had crippling anxiety. I had,
Yeah.
you know, my OCD that was already around, I think, from repetitive head injuries as a kid was getting super, super bad. And this was like spring of 2020, like kind of when COVID hit. Kind of when, you know, family kind of got locked down at first when everyone was freaking out about it. And shit just got real bad for me. It just got real tough. Which is crazy because I look back now and I'm like, damn, dude, I'm so goddamn blessed. Like I have everything I could ever need and want. And life is beautiful and amazing. And I'm just grateful to be here. But shit got really, really tough, dude. And I think that goes to show too, like it's kind of this invisible injury, the head injury stuff.
Definitely.
And if you can't necessarily identify it, or characterize it with objective technology, you know, it's really, really tough to, I think, one, confirm it for yourself, but two, confirm it to your peers. And then also if you're involved with like organizations that are overseeing your activity, your athletics, it's super hard to get any support for head injuries and stuff if you're not, you know, getting a clear diagnosis or have some type of objective data to back that up. So that was like my problem forever, was coaches not believing that I hit my head, or, you know, people telling me, dude, you're fine. Just like, just chill. You're going to be fine. Like relax, like come party. So we'll pour some beer on it. Yeah. Like straight up. That was like a saying. We're all like, yeah, pour some beer.
Yeah.
Which is super fucked up, dude. Don't do that. But yeah, through that got to a point where it was rough. But I actually had these brain scans pre and post of my concussion, by this company called Wavi Medical. They're based in Denver. They make this portable EEG. So it's like, it gives you an auditory stimulus, this one test called the P300, and then essentially it's an evoked response potential. So you get this stimulus, and then it's basically evoking a response from your brain, and that response is electrical. So we can pick that up on this technology, this brain scanning device, and based on where you sit, with how much electricity your brain's producing, where these frequencies are coming from in the brain in different regions, you know, we can get a gauge for how you compare to the healthy individuals, the normative data. And that really was like powerful for me through concussions, because I was like, oh damn, like I am messed up right now. And I had stuff showing me, dude, that like,
Yeah.
I have post-concussion syndrome. I have this structural disconnectivity between different regions of the brain associative with that. I've got imbalances in frontal alpha frequencies between the two frontal regions of my brain. So one side's creating more alpha, which is that 7 to 13 hertz brainwave frequency, than the other, and that can correlate with low moods, anxiety, stress. So like seeing that for me was like, damn, that's so reassuring. But I also could take that to a physician, got a diagnosis, and then I got recommended these treatments and therapies that I went and tried. So I want to bring that whole experience essentially to the masses. And I had that brain scan when things got tough, or those brain scans. So that was kind of when I was like, all right, we're starting a nonprofit. It's called Happy Healthy Brain. Mom came up with this like awesome name. And our goal was to partner up with this technology and integrate it into concussion protocols. And shit was super tough
Yeah.
off the bat. Like I think one, funding a nonprofit, I ended up spending like literally every cent I had over the last like 3 years on this nonprofit, trying to get endorsements, but from schools, from athletic clubs, from the U.S. team, from various organizations to one, do research, but also just to like educate people and get this thing used. Because there's technologies that we're using, but they're so far behind the curve on where technology is going that it's like I think we're really missing injuries,
Mhm.
and then those injuries end up becoming mental health issues that I was dealing with, and it's a crazy thing. There's so much behind the scenes going on with head injury that we were like, all right, we're gonna try to do this, but it was tough, man. And we ended up kind of transitioning not too long ago. I basically was going around with this technology. It's portable, fits in a
Mhm.
bag, and just scanning like all of these kids. I kind of built this little team. I had like
Yeah.
2 employees I was paying to do brain scans for me, got them trained. We were going to schools, clubs. I ended up funding like this 25-person study, I think it was, at with the Olympic team neurologist. Um,
That's huge.
yeah, that was kind of a frustrating thing though, for sure. I was kind of in the beginning stages in my understanding of the research, I think, around these things, and the number of participants you need for statistical relevance or clinical relevant data. So it was interesting that I wasn't um, told about that necessarily, or like, man, it's my fault looking back that I should have really done the research. But an Olympic team neurologist that's taking money from you for a study to validate a technology that's already been validated and cleared by the FDA, I think is a little interesting to begin with.
Yeah.
But to then, do 25 people $20,000 later and say, we're going to need 25 more to be clinically relevant. That was a shock for me. So that kind of sucked. And there's a lot more to that story. That's kind of just the overview.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I ended up starting this company because of the nonprofit just costing so much money and not being a professional snowboarder anymore. And what we're doing is using this technology, same technology, to collect data for proof of concept research. So like companies that make neurotherapeutics will
Yeah.
come in, we'll do the brain scans for you. There's a couple other things we can do too. We can do, microbiome assessments, epigenetics assessments with some other companies that we have kind of partnerships with, but basically collect data. And then, I've got a scientific advisory board essentially made up of these just like amazing, smart people that have been helping me. And we'll, create a little white paper for you, a little write up for you if you
Yeah.
want to validate your product and give that to you. Yeah, man, it's been a interesting ride, a lot of learning along the way, but it's cool that I think I've really been blessed with just the people that have helped me and guided me through this kind of like point to where I am now.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to see this kind of stuff coming out. I never had any exposure to anything like that.
mm,
Even when going to doctors, my experience was always like they would tell me some things that could help me. They would teach me about what just happened to me, about, here's what your brain is like in your head, and here's what happened. And
yeah.
there was maybe like a thing on a computer, you could play some puzzle or some
Right,
game or
right, right,
something,
right.
right? And
Yeah.
tell you some stats on yourself. But it didn't ever do anything as far as like giving me a trajectory or giving me any sort of insight like what you explained.
Mhm,
And there was literally just like this lack of knowledge, I
mhm.
guess, or there's ignorance, or um, because it's your brain, it's invisible type of
Yeah.
stuff. It
Yeah.
wasn't like something that anyone focused on. When I found out you were doing that, it was like a huge fire for me to try to help you in any way, because I know how important it is. And even baseline, we talk about baseline tests, but it's like people think like baseline, so I compare it to other things later. But I think it's also like a baseline of like, here is where you are at, and here's what you're dealing with right now. And you can start to do some things and maybe help yourself or try to
Yeah.
counteract or heal and all that other stuff. You have a
Yeah.
trajectory rather than pour the beer on it, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
shut up and hop back into work or whatever. And
Right.
so that's super powerful
Yeah,
that
bro.
that's out there. And I mean, I hope that keeps going. I hope that maybe we can reach with some content like
Yeah.
this, like reach some people that this will strike a chord with you that it's important. Like
100%,
football, hockey, even snowboarding. Like people, to me, I didn't even think that snowboarding was like contact or head injury or any of that stuff. I don't even like think about that. But then again, you're flying through the air down a freaking mountain. Of course, you're gonna have some problems, you know.
And dude, thank you for just giving me the platform to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you're right. It is super important. And you touched on a really important piece too, like finding a baseline, finding like where you're at and comparing you to the healthy normative data that we have on people gives you this kind of like start. And then, you know, you can either evaluate head injuries that might happen. And you can also, if you're feeling like there's, you know, something present that's a problem, identify it and then try different types of interventions to get to a point where you're feeling good again.
100%.
So like, yeah, I mean, that's a huge point, bro. And I appreciate you bringing that up.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was what stuck out to me. I mean, I had to find my own way too, you know, and that's what landed me in cannabis. That's the cannabis connection here was, you know, we did some scans with you. I think you took CBD and then did some scans and stuff like that and tried to see that. And then even now, like moving into, I'm working with the company. Thankfully, I mean, I really like this project. They're a group of doctors that have actually like formulated products and then reformulated those products based off feedback in clinics and research from way back when. I mean, it's crazy because there's people don't know this, but there's so much research on cannabis in the 60s, like 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And then gone. Yeah. Like, you know, and so they kind of dug some of that back up. And they actually were just on an episode and they were kind of telling their story, but it's like they see the value in cannabinoids or nootropics or any of this other stuff, but they have all of those types of products and they're introducing them to people as like, hey, you have a pain issue or mobility issue, stress, anxiety, brain fog, whatever. Try this in your routine. Like I'm not saying throw your prescriptions in the trash or, you know, go to all this holistic doctor, go down this road, but they're actually offering like, I'm your doctor. Let's have a conversation about this. Here's an option for you.
Yeah, here's another potential avenue.
And that's something that cannabis opened me up to because I had the pain. Like I had a lot of headaches. I still have headaches, and migraines and stuff, you know, but really mine was like the brain fog. I'm a pretty sharp person.
Yeah.
I have a lot of irons in the fire always.
Yeah, for sure.
And I like it that way. But when I started to have like these little nuances of like stress and anxiety creeping in that I didn't ever have before. And then it was really like a brain fog issue. I'm sure like alcohol and being a 21-year-old dude in college and all that stuff, like it wasn't a good recipe, but you know, like I say in these episodes, I never tried cannabis until I was a full on adult. Like I was 20 going on 21. And once I did, I was like, are you kidding me? Like I'll stop the drinking. I'll stop the, Adderall or whatever other people use to study and stuff. I don't need any of that stuff because now I have this option. And then I did more research and tried more CBD products and cannabis products and THC to CBD ratios and CBN and CBG on down the line. Yeah. And each one has a different effect on your body for different things. And like, it's just, I can genuinely say, cause I don't sell product, like it does help people. It does help me for sure. You can feel it. That was another thing that was really impressive when I got into cannabis was some products were, you know, did they work? Other products, I was like, okay, this works. And then I knew exactly like what I was looking to achieve, which was like clear my brain fog or, you know, reduce stress, sleep at night or like whatever. And that's what cannabis was for me, you know, thankfully. And I didn't, you know, I think approached with cannabis as like a constructive, not a destructive, like, oh, it'll ruin your life. You'll be a stoner. You'll be couch locked. You'll lose everything you ever loved, you know, like that kind of stuff. Because my parents were like that. I mean, they're conservative. We're, you know, from Texas and all. But it was more of like a constructive of like, you know, try it out in different doses, see what helps you. You know, if you think you go overboard sometimes, don't do that next time, you know, try to dial it back and start low, go slow kind of thing and try different products and research your brands as much as you can. And thankfully there's information out there more so now than ever about that type of stuff. But I wanted to talk about the newest project. Because nootropics is new. Psilocybin, mushrooms, all that is new on this side for even recreational or like medicinal, holistic wellness type of stuff. So just like dive into your project that you got going on, because I think that's like super interesting and another great avenue of like introducing people to things the right way. And I'm a big pusher on that for cannabis of like, if you have a heady brand and, you know, Snoop Dogg's your biggest influencer, you're going to get a certain like a certain type of the demographic in the market. If you advertise with athletes and you go to that, you're going to get those people.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
that's why I'm going to throw it to you. Cause I really like this new concept that you got going.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. And I think I'll just kind of touch on something real quick that kind of fits into I think the cannabis topic as well. Like these are, that cannabis fits into the kind of like sacred plant medicine,
right?
That a lot of the other psychedelics do too, because I think essentially it is a psychedelic.
Yeah.
And these substances have been used intentionally by people for so long, tens of thousands of years. These go way back, and these are things that I think are used for healing specifically, and yeah, you're going to get the stigma around things because of a certain, group of individuals that might have given it a bad name, one bad apple
for sure
spoils a whole bunch for sure. But yeah, I think the healing, the intentional healing aspect of cannabis and other psychedelics like mushrooms can be so powerful, especially for people struggling. And that that area and that topic of struggling is so broad. Like there's so many different things that people are struggling with, from OCD, from depression, anxiety, traumatic brain injury, whether it's Parkinson's or whether it's, someone has terminal cancer and they have a fear of death, whether, there's so many different things that a lot of these plant substances can help you with, that if they're used intentionally and correctly, they can really bring some success to people. But yeah, there's definitely a huge stigma, I think, around mushrooms. And obviously on the like legality and the legislation side of it, there's huge efforts to, make that widely available to people and do it the right way, which is super important. And then, there's obviously some aspect of recreational use, and yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say taking mushrooms was a great time and fun, like a lot of people do that for sure. But these are also things that when we look at the research, when we look at the science that shows, the increase in plasticity and the serotonin receptor being activated by these, compounds in magic mushrooms, psilocin, that there's so much more to the story when it comes to using these, and not only a recreational sense. And I think obviously like there's a lot more content, a lot more people with the internet these days to show
definitely
a lot of that. But yeah, man, the new project is really cool. So we did essentially like a 30-person study using the brain scanning, using microbiome, using epigenetics assessments to look at individuals with various issues, depression, anxiety, cancer. Even a few of them had cancer, and I think that kind of fits into the general anxiety as well. Traumatic brain injury, PTSD. So, it was a small subset, obviously proof of concept study, but essentially we were looking at the effects of micro amounts of psilocybin combined with lion's mane over the course of 6 months or so. And what we found was really cool. We found essentially a very common decrease in, general mental health symptoms like low moods, anxiety, depression for those that had that diagnosis. But there was also these different data sets that we were pulling from all the individuals that had a very common change in the structural reconnectivity in the prefrontal cortex regions of the brain that we were able to gather through that EEG. Another reason why objective data is super powerful. And then also, with the P300, that's a evoked response potential test, giving you a stimulus and measuring your brain's response from that. We were able to gauge basically brain reaction time, the amount of time it takes your brain to process a stimulus. And that ended up increasing like exponentially with like a very large number. The participants and I don't like to talk too much about this data as it's like this huge thing, because it was a really small proof of concept study essentially.
You'd be surprised. You're so much further.
Yeah.
Like other people will just pulverize mushrooms, put them in a capsule, send it out the door.
Exactly.
For their, $50 or whatever, because
exactly.
they just want to make the money rather than doing it from, okay, I might have to even spend money
Yeah.
on the front of this brand. But to get the research is, I think you'll prove long term that's the approach you should take.
Yeah, 100%.
When you're trying to do something for somebody, why would you, throw stuff at a wall?
Yeah.
Or just like,
Yeah, exactly.
kind of walk around and hope that something
in the
happens.
dark. Yeah.
Shoot in the dark.
Yeah.
That always doesn't make sense to me. And then that's where I think like there's a stigma, because there is a lot like that. Or what I always say, even with cannabis, is it's like, okay, if you use a certain amount of cannabis or a cannabis product, and if even daily, right, for a certain thing, you try to achieve a certain feeling or do something, that's medicinal, right? If you just try to take as much as possible every single day, like that's abuse almost.
Yeah.
I mean, even as someone who consumes a lot, like,
Yeah.
there's things that you need to keep into perspective. So, I like that you guys are going in with data and even just trying like 30 people. That's better than zero.
Yeah, exactly, man. Thank you. Yeah. And it's cool too. I think like, so what we've been doing, I guess, since, things changed a little bit on the decriminalization front in Denver and in Colorado, we have resources that, have access to and make these psilocybin mushroom products, which essentially are like, capsules in encapsulation form, because, there's, I think, a lot of that stuff going on right now, a lot of people making stuff like that, but there's huge benefits to having, a controlled amount in a capsule form that's a very low amount of these things. So I don't want to use like the dosage word. Like we've been told not to, I've been told not to, around the legality of it. But, and dude, honestly, like I don't even know how much of this I can talk about, but
I'll let you screen the episode.
Yeah. We'll clip it for sure. But yeah, there's I think a huge benefit to having, obviously controlled amounts of these things in a controlled setting. Set and setting is super important. And what my goal is to just really help people. That's what I want to do. And so it's cool. We've been connecting people with resources and essentially for the elderly population too. And I don't even really want to use the word elderly. I think that's like too much of a generalization, or like makes them seem like, but even like 55 plus that might have some symptoms of cognitive decline. Like we've been able to kind of capture a kind of like halt in what would be increasing symptomology or pathology of these EEG results that indicate cognitive decline. So being able to step in and delay that time between someone, being okay and then all of a sudden having dementia or Alzheimer's and declining real fast is huge. And I think like a lot of the elderly population, that elderly again being the wrong word, but a lot of the older population, obviously like we're young, for us is 50s and whatnot. So
sometimes I feel like I'm forgetting stuff already. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's like probably injuries that we both had. But yeah, man, it's cool. It's a fun thing. And I just want to help people. So we're trying to help as many people as possible.
Cool. Well, look out for a project that Jake may or may not be working on currently.
Yeah, exactly.
It may or may not exist.
Yeah.
That we totally talked about, but it's not concrete. Don't hold us to this.
Yeah.
No, again, it goes back to like showing people the right avenue in the right light. And like, it's like, hey, if you got problems with your girlfriend, you just go take bunch of mushrooms, bro, you figure it out. Is different than like, hey, if you're struggling with something, there's methods to this that can kind of like help you over time. Look at things like, dementia and stuff like that's crazy. Like I said, I mean, my parents are getting older every day. Everyone's are. Like I said, I feel like I can find myself slipping away on some things. I'm not as quick as I used to be. And I haven't even really dabbled in any of that stuff, like mushrooms or even like nootropics as a whole. Like I know there's like a whole ton of things in that category that can do a lot of like positive things for your brain, your body, like just in general. but in the limited experience that I've been able to have with quality like psychedelic or mushroom brands or nootropic brands, like it definitely does have an effect when you dose it right. Sorry for using that word again,
Yeah.
but dosing it right is huge, because like I've had experiences where I was like, this is too much, I don't like it. And then I had experiences where it was like, I don't care what happens, I'm good.
100%.
Like I'm enjoying everything that's happening to me right now in traffic, or you know, just like going throughout my day, all the obstacles and nuances and bullshit, for lack of a better word, that happens during the day is totally different. Which with me, like my fuse is short, you know, even before any type of brain injury, my fuse has been short. So, and then, you know, buddies that come back from the military, they're always all over the mushroom stuff, you know, and trying to find the best products and stuff, because it really helps. Just like cope and even be comfortable getting back into society, or like making a change in your life too, you know, like you just had a big change too. So I don't think people have enough information on that, on like, these are out there, they're rapidly evolving. It's probably going to be tough for you guys, you know, with this being a new thing. It's always tough at the beginning, pioneering an industry. But I think you guys will prove to really take a hold on this kind of stuff, because even people our generation and even a few before us are like kicking alcohol, they're kicking certain things out of their diets or their daily routines, and they're looking for these like more natural things. So
100%, dude. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I think I'll touch on just a little bit if you pull, because I know
we can go as long as we need.
Take too long. But you know, given my background too, just with head injuries and the amount of struggle that I had, I got to the point where I had tried like so many different treatment interventions for so many different things, whether that was like headaches, vertigo, like vestibular issues, ocular motor function, all of which seem to be more on the physical side of the head injury realm. But then there's also this like really psychological side, depression, anxiety, OCD, that stuff. I tried so much HBOT, like hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, audio visual brainwave entrainment, which is more of like a frequency and blue light stimulation therapy, different nutraceuticals, different nootropics, different supplement interventions, cranial sacral work, like the list goes on. But I finally got to a point where I was working with a psychotherapist who had recommended I try psilocybin mushrooms or try some type of, psychedelic intervention. And so, I ended up getting my hands on what was a very controlled micro amount of mushrooms with lion's mane. And for those of you who don't know, lion's mane is a functional mushroom that has, really big impact on the physiological. Lion's mane has just a very big impact physiologically on the brain, and that's been researched very well. It's a functional mushroom, so I was really excited to kind of start that. Ended up getting off of antipsychotics, antidepressant, ADHD medications, sleeping medications that I've been taking for like 13 years. That really brought me, first off, just weren't working.
No,
but brought me to like a really bad spot.
Yeah.
And so for me, trying micro amounts of mushrooms and getting on a good protocol, finding a sweet spot, getting a good education of what's going on with these substances and these compounds, ended up being the most just amazing experience of my life, and kind of a total page turner for me. It was like, from the outside looking in, like some me. And it is amazing, bro. But it was a fucking struggle.
For sure.
And I got to a dark point, and then when I tried these functional mushrooms, then everything switched, bro. And I'm like I don't know. Everyone kind of always tells me this, but I'm like a completely different person than I was a year and a half ago. And I've been probably doing this for about 18 months, but that is also why I have some passion for, I think, trying to help people with these sacred plant medicines and the education part that you kind of touched on briefly. Like, dude, that's so important. Like, I think
100%.
also on the cannabis side too, like that's where the research is super important, but it's almost become such a recreational thing, which you can find so much benefit with it recreationally and with different intentional uses for it.
Definitely.
But the education is so huge, especially on the plant medicine side with functional mushrooms, because you can just take these and you can have, increased plasticity. But what you really want is intentional increased plasticity,
A regiment.
yeah, increased plasticity where you're creating new thought patterns in your brain to um, be happy more, forget about the negative stuff. And I think more so just like put your brain in a good position with these functional plant medicines like functional mushrooms, and then do certain things that will help you along the process, because you're essentially going to be rewiring your brain. So you want to be doing something that's of value, that's going to help you, instead of just like sitting there and like
Vegging out.
yeah. So yeah, there's the education piece is huge too, but
yeah. I think it's still lacking even on cannabis. I mean, you can't just go in there and talk to a bud tender and think like, okay, whatever they tell me is right for me. I mean, you should do your own research. You should try your own stuff.
Sure.
And even on the cannabis side, like we talk about education for the longest, especially with it being legal, or even on CBD and hemp, like if you're educating and you're also selling products, like somebody's coming for you. Either
100%.
the people who handle your money are coming for you, or the FDA is coming for you. So it's been difficult. And that's honestly some of what makes me valuable to the industry, is like being creative and getting around some of that and creating new things to educate people. But one of the biggest things I always harp on is the first time users.
Yeah.
Because those people is where your money's at. And people think like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, like the stoner heady people, the mushroom people, they already understand, right? They already know. We already got them. That's low hanging fruit. They're going to come. We just got to build it and put it out there. It's the first time users that your money is made, because you make that good first impression, you educate correctly, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to go shop mushroom brands on the shelf or cannabis brands on the shelf, because they know like, oh, well, Jake Pates recommended this for me. Then I did more research and I learned this. And maybe even my doctor said, try it. It won't kill you, and then things are happening to where now these people are like, okay, I'm going to go over the line. I'm going to put my toes in the water. I have a good experience, with a good product. That's another thing. Sometimes the products, once they get over that line, it's a bad product and it's like back to square one.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm shutting down. That was terrible. Drugs. Oh my God. And so it freaks people out. But when you do that first time user, you nurture those people correctly with education as much as you can. And like, let them try, let them find you, let them have that educational experience and that epiphany of like, wow, this is something that can help me. They don't ever leave.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
The first time, like everybody who's
help, typically.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Like someone is struggling with something and they're coming for a resource, or something they think might be able to help them. So yeah, I mean, throwing various products at them, not giving them a full education, that can be not great for.
It just feeds the stigma of these industries too.
Yeah. And if you're a company, like repeat business, that's not going to happen. You got to really hone in. And I think that's also kind of part of the problem too, is like on the consumer side, educating themselves. Because I remember like when, when I turned 21 and dispensaries were a thing in Colorado, go in, you just like kind of look at
overwhelming.
Oh, this is cool. I'll grab this, whatever.
Yeah. It's like overstimulating.
There's so many products, right? So it's like hard to figure out like what exactly you're getting. And dude, I think I used to smoke a lot of cannabis, and I used to, eat edibles all the time, kind of just like recreationally.
Yeah.
Like essentially. But I've actually stopped, and I think I found a good kind of like, I think I found what I liked as far as a product goes, an indica, something that will like chill me out. And maybe that's something that I want to do before bed so I can just get a good night rest. But I ended up not doing that for a while. And this could be educational for people to like, look into like what the effects are of the different strains, different types of like, I don't even know what you would call that, like indica versus sativa. Like
I mean, some of it's all bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, I'll just put that out there. But it is true in the sense of like, even like looking at products, if it's a 10 milligram versus a 25 or a 50, that sort of stuff matters. Indica and sativa, I think people just have over marketed that term.
Okay.
So sometimes you got to be like kind of even careful on like what they're actually saying on the packages. But if you see something that says indica and you think, okay, sleep, you try it and it works for you.
Yeah.
We're there, right?
Yeah. That was one thing that I think I messed up with, because I went so overboard, dude, on sativa.
Definitely.
That I got to a point where I was like, if I
doesn't work,
partake at all, I get so paranoid, so anxious. So I started really trying to find like like you're saying, like an actual indica product, like something that's actually gonna, help with what I wanted to help with.
Which luckily in this state,
Yeah.
you're gonna have more accurate representation than what maybe other states would have.
Yeah.
So I mean that's definitely an advantage for being located here.
Yeah. And I ended up finding it, which is good. But yeah, I think for people, it's like, like consider what you want to get out of this, do the research on the product, educate yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to try some other stuff to find a sweet spot. It's kind of like the mushrooms. You have to find a good what works for you. Everybody's so different. But yeah, there's a big piece of that. But then you find a good zone.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Just being comfortable with it. Because like if you have a bad experience, it takes you all the way back to square one.
100%.
And then if you see people that maybe use things incorrectly, it's kind of a stain. It kind of alienates those first time users or those people who are curious about stuff.
Yep.
So, I mean, education's a great thing for, I think, you guys to focus on with your projects as much as you can. For anyone else out there, definitely try to educate your people on what you're doing. Not only just the product, what it can do for them, but even just credit claim what you're doing, which is again why we got Jake here. He's got a lot of stuff going on. We want to highlight that. But I thought, with the cannabis, is cannabis like a huge thing in the extreme sports scene? Is that something that is like, and even the psychedelics, like, is that?
Oh yeah. I think the psychedelics are definitely more behind the scenes,
right?
Just because of the stigma. I think is our cannabis is further along in the acceptance of it. But yeah, cannabis is a huge. I think is very embedded in action sports, and I think maybe with a few different ones, like at least skateboarding and snowboarding, like cannabis is everybody smokes weed. Everybody is smoking all the time, bro. All the time, bro. And obviously in music, it's huge.
Yeah.
But I think also those are people that, I think have a very kind of like creative aspect on life too. And yeah, snowboarding and skateboarding might be super extreme from the outside view, but it's so creative.
Definitely.
It's something that obviously takes a toll on your body and your mental health too. So I think that's why people go that route. But then you also have the recreational like party scene, and it's huge in that sense as well. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's cool to hear about that, like behind the scenes thing. I think that's also something that was valued by having someone like yourself on this, and moving forward is like peek behind the curtain too, because you can watch a bunch of reels on Instagram or whatever and think one thing, but then to like have a platform or wherever we can sit down and talk about 100%. That type of stuff, I think will help other people too put in perspective of like, you guys are just humans. You're just dealing with the same stuff. It's just from a different thing,
Yeah.
Your back hurts just like everyone else's back hurts.
Yeah.
Your brain hurts like everyone else's brain. You're tired like everyone else is tired. And so it's cool to just put you guys kind of drop you in the real world a little bit for everybody. And I think that helps the stigma too of like, if people of a certain stature or have achieved certain things, if they are okay with this, like it can't be that detrimental. It can't be that bad.
100%, man.
Which I think is super cool. We go back to talking about first time users and introducing people and educating. I mean, the best thing to do, and this is what I've done with brands in the past, is like the best thing to do is put it in the hands of people who have trusted people behind.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So influencer, I hate that word,
yeah,
but it does have an effect, like the influence of people. And because I'm sure that even the stuff we've done, I'm sure that has sparked interest by seeing, okay, Jake Pate's posted about this clothing brand, this product or that product. Like, what is that? That's all I need, as a business owner, like just what is it? Like, then my marketing kicks in. So I think wrapping it up, we'll circle around to the gratitude, dude. Thank you. Like, one, for hosting. This is great. We could have been in some park somewhere, so this is great. That we're just here in your little Denver dojo.
Yeah.
When you come out of the mountains from being a mountain man and whatever you guys do up there.
Yeah, bro.
But this is super cool. Thanks for hosting. Check out Jake Pates on Instagram. You won't be disappointed. He's got a lot of cool content on there from snowboarding and stuff, but also he's got a lot of projects going on that are really on the forefront of some industries, whether it be your brain health, the nootropics and all of that. So I'm sure if you find him on Instagram or online, you'll find all of his other projects kind of connected to him. So
Yeah.
go dig and check that out.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me on
Of
this
course, dude. Of course.
amazing podcast.
I'm sure this won't be the
Stuff.
last time, dude.
Yeah,
I hope one day we have like a nice studio you can come to.
Yeah,
And
that'd be sweet.
maybe we'll bring you down to Texas or something.
Yeah.
And we'll kick it for sure. But
yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Puff and Prosper tries to stay on the frontier of stuff like this. So anything from talking about brain health and nootropics to cannabis business, cannabis society, and the individuals that are moving this along and putting this in a much better light than what has been over the last few years. So if this was interesting to you, let us know what you think in the comments. If you notice that we're matching and you want to talk shit, we appreciate that too. But shout out to some of the brands that make this possible: Revive Biotech, Burnside Clothing. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, bro. Shout out to everybody on my team. You know who you are. It's a big team.
You know who you are.
Thank you.
The blanket shout out. But yeah, make sure you check out Jake Pates online. Check out all of his projects. And stay tuned for more incredible cannabis or maybe nootropics content on your favorite podcast, Puff and Prosper. So we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me, brother. Of course, dude. And are you cool too if I just make a little comment here?
Yeah, we can edit it. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, a lot of my friends unfortunately struggle with mental health stuff. And unfortunately, like, I mean, just like straight up fucked up things
For sure.
have happened, and people get into a really dark place sometimes. A few of my close friends have died by suicide because of these things. And so, dude, given everything that I'm trying to do, help people, for those that I haven't been able to help that have been close to me, is like a huge slap in the face.
Yeah.
Like straight up. So I want to say, for anybody that is like really struggling with their mental health, I have so much access, dude. That's part of why it's such a slap in the face when I can't help, but so much access to physicians, whether it's neurologists, psychotherapists, psychiatric doctors, behavioral therapists, counselors, functional neurologists, acupuncturists, whatever it is. Like, I have so much access and so many contacts that I want to be a resource for people. So if you're struggling with mental health, or you know someone who's struggling with mental health, please reach out, because
definitely reach out.
I'd love to help. That's my whole thing. That's what I'm trying to do, is help. So
Definitely.
I just want to put that out there. I'll have throw my tag in the clip or whatever. But
yeah, no, definitely, dude. And honestly, again, exposing people to you and to what you got going on is that's the whole point and the whole premise of doing all this. And it is cool. It's cool to talk about mental health, man. I mean, we can sit here as bros and chop it up and talk about the things that we struggle with or the things we've gone through. It's definitely not something that anyone needs to keep inside, and there's always outlets. You can talk to a pro snowboarder about it.
Yeah, the stigma is fake. The stigma is fake for sure. I don't know what that all is about, but there's
macho. It's like I think it really does come from like a macho. Like, if I talk about my brain, they'll think I'm crazy, or like I'm weak, I'm a pussy, or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
no, dude, you can be a badass and masculine as fuck and still talk about your mental health and that you struggle with shit. Like, that's okay.
100%.
That's okay. So yeah.
And you become more badass by doing it. Get
100%, man.
Harder shell, talking about your feelings and shit. So.
Yeah, you're making progress doing that, dude.
Yeah.
Sure. You can be your own therapist.
Just 100%, dude. That's great. We'll definitely throw that in there. It goes exactly hand in hand with what this whole podcast is about. It's like Puff and Prosper is it's not even necessarily tied to cannabis. It's just like trying to prove to people that you can have access to certain things that help you and still do what you need to do and want it. You can marry the two, honestly, most of the time. So love that you said that. Love the, I hate that stuff happens. I have the same situation on my side. People, even then they've looked for help and they found it in something like the drugs, the alcohol, or the wrong people. And, it all leads to destruction, unfortunately. So
yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah. Reach out to Jake Pates.
Yeah, please.
Use the resources, talk to someone cool about mental health. It's a lot different than talking to someone who doesn't know you, like a doctor or something, doesn't know where you've come from, what you've been through. So definitely speak out. I try to get myself out of my comfort zone and talk about things and blast it on the internet to the world, Jake too. So definitely speak up. I love that you said that.
I'm here to help.
Cool.
Yeah.
Keep it real.
Yeah.
Puff and prosper.
Puff and prosper, baby. Shout
Another
out.
one. Another one in the
Yeah.
books. Another one in the books.